Okay, so I had just woke up from a dream um, regarding a family situation where okay, so we went out to go visit family, um, and this family of ours lives in a country area, and they, like usually in country areas, you have stores that are not um, popular um to the rest of the I guess what you could say like urban, you know, um parts of certain parts of the country. Um the these stores were it was a purple store, purple and white. I don't know what store that is, but it was a grocery store. I may have to look it up later. It was a grocery store, and for some reason, the customers um, had entry to what where the warehouse portion of the store was, um, or like the storage area. Um, and not so much that the customers had access; it was just like that was how the store was made. It was like you enter the store, and like there's pallets and stacks of like food and things like that next to the entrance, and this store was in a big, a pretty big, um, like a shopping center, if you will. But I don't know what all the other stores were. I just know that this store was a pretty big one in this very tree-ridden, field-ridden um, area of the country that we were in to go visit this family. And I know that when we first got to the family member's house, um, it was a pretty nice house. It was on like a slanted hill sort of, and I looked out the blinds, the standing blinds. Um, at one point in the dream, I'm a little bit everywhere. This isn't from start to finish, but I remember at one point looking out the window at the extended blinds from the back door and seeing a hill off the patio, and or seeing the patio leading to which led to a hill, and it just went down, and there was a like a kid down there riding his bike, and people walking in the street in that um, portion of this little country neighborhood, this very rural neighborhood, or neighborhood in a rural area. And but I sat back down, and I guess I was watching TV. I can't remember what I was watching, but I sat back down, and I remember at one point in the dream, uh, my mother had asked me, she said, "Do you want to go back home?" And I was like, "No, I can't go back home." For some reason in my dream, I was like, "I can't go back home. I can't because my uncles, I promised my uncles that I would hang out with all of them, and I never did. So I want to hang out with them, and I don't want to go home and then regret not hanging out with them." And that's just to say, like, these older uncles of mine, they were much older guys. Two of them in particular, all of them weren't old, but two of them in particular were very old guys, and they were, very active old guys, out in their yard, doing yard work and stuff. I remember at one point in the dream, I was hanging out with one uncle in particular who was walking through the yard. He was raking some things, and I was helping him bag, leaves and throw certain trash, certain things away that was in the yard, like glass jars and just old stuff. And I remember laying on the what seemed as if it were the kitchen floor of this house, and this rural house, and of this rural home rather. And I said, yeah, mom. That's when my mom was in the kitchen. I was on one portion side of the kitchen, she was at the refrigerator. She said, do you want to go home? And I was just like, no, I can't go home. I want to hang out with these uncles of mine before I don't want to go home and regret it. They, like I said, they were two of the older uncles were pretty old men, active but old, and I didn't want to have leave. I didn't want to leave, and you know, just to say like, I didn't want them to like, pass away or anything, and me not have had a chance to, you know, chill with them. So, um, I remember that in the dream, I was pretty adamant about, you know, um, fulfilling my promise of hanging out with these uncles and spending time with them. Um, these are uncles that had only heard of me, but had never had time to hang out with me, um, which relates to my real life. Um, but I also, yeah, this store that I was in, that purple and whitish, grayish store. I was hoping that I could get a job there. And my mom was like, well, yeah, when I told her that I didn't want to leave, she was like, well, I mean, you could get a job at such and such. It was something she said. She almost said the store's name in the dream. It sounded like she did say it, but I just couldn't pick up what it was. But it's like I recognized what it was. I recognized that she was referencing that store. Um, I was like, that sounds like a really good idea. And the idea in my head was I could get a job at that store so that I could stay in that city, that rural area with them. Um, so I could be making some sort of income. Um, and the store seemed like a big store, like, they had a lot of customers, you know. So I was like, yeah, like why not? And but yeah, after that, after I had vocalized that, um, I remember my mom sitting on the bed at one point. Like she sat on the guest room bed, and I looked in the room and I was like, hey, Ma, you doing okay? She was like, yeah, I'm doing fine. And she was just kicking her shoes off for the day. She was about to go to bed. And I remember as she laid down, she was like, you doing okay? Like she's covering up the covers and everything. And she was like, you doing okay? And I was like, yeah. Um, I was like, yeah. I was like, you doing okay? And then she jumped up, um, like as it like, and she kicked off like something was crawling on her. And I remember like pulling out. I looked, and I was like, Mom, what's going on? I pulled back the blanket, and then she jumped up, pulled the blanket, and threw it back towards the wall. And my mom has a fear in real life of a certain bug. Um, uh, but it wasn't that. It was her earring, or it was a earring rather, And the earring, I don't even know if it was her earring in the dream, but all I remember, it was a round hooped earring that had these prongs on it. Um, Not sharp prongs, but I guess pointy enough to give her like a sort of like, like to make her think it may have been something crawling on her. But it wasn't a bug. It was just this hoop earring. I remember it was gold and silver, and it was pretty basic, but it just had these prongs sticking off of it, like four prongs. Um, so it was like the hoop, but then like every 5 millimeter, every like 4 millimeters or so, 4 to 5 millimeters, there was a prong, welded, looked like to the features of the earring. Um, yeah, I'm not sure what kind of, earring, but yeah, yeah, that happened in the dream. And um after one point, oh yeah, but that was before, that occurred before me laying on the kitchen floor while she was in the refrigerator at this family house. um and she had asked me, do you want to go home? And you know I told her no or whatever with the uncles. I don't want to spend time with my uncles. But yeah, once I asked her that, that's when I woke up about the dream and the job. um this purple place, this purple and white building where the people wore purple and white work vests. And you know it's I don't know. Very interesting dream though. Felt too real. The sun in the sky was beautiful though. Like the trees were very green. It was just like this country area where like you see like a house every once in a while. And where I mean, we had in their neighborhood, there were homes throughout their neighborhood, but outside of that neighborhood, like driving on the highway, or the interstate, um like on the main roadways, you would see like a house every once in a while. But in this neighborhood, it seemed like a pretty uh dense population, a pretty decently dense population. um but yeah, I'd have to one day try to draw what I see in these dreams. That would really help to give a visual of what I see. Um, yeah, because these just nothing like it. These dreams usually have beautiful landscapes, and just like the trees are usually bright, um, deep green trees with like light reflecting through the leaves. It's yeah, these dreams are usually very beautiful. Um, I don't know. I don't know what that means either. I have to question. I have to see what that may mean. Dream in like these bright colors. Um, Sometimes, most times. Um, but yeah, that is that dream. Um, yep. But yeah, God bless.